Well, my history, I've been in an awful lot of churches since I met my first wife. Goodness gracious. Every denomination under the sun, and a lot of religious places of other belief systems too, religions and so on. In the Christian church especially, I've heard a lot of, and by heard I mean really been moved by a lot of personal testimonies of people that have brought half the audience, the congregation, to tears in empathy and feeling and lifted spiritually. And I get the same effect from the near-death experience videos that I have chosen to listen to. And I'm sure I've been selective, according to whatever criteria I have in me, my values. I'm moved similarly by such. Well, their testimonies too. Because so often they've experienced an intense love of God present with them. And it's utterly transformed their life. I don't mean they've become, card-carrying Christian members. I mean it's spiritually, utterly changing their life. Someone was at pains to point out there's a difference between religiousness and spirituality. And that in the last 100 years or so, we've come into an age of spirituality as opposed to religion. And that's thriving and doing incredibly well. I mean, it's been in what we have almost disparagingly referred to as New Age. It's been in the earlier, theosophical thing where Madame Blavatsky was fascinated by other religions than Christianity, especially Hinduism and Buddhism. And sorry, I've lost my thread. Hang on. Oh yes, it is that these near-death experiences are a bit like the testimonies of spirituality, as opposed to what I've associated with Christian religion. Testimonies from ordinary people that have been saved, if you like, into Christianity from appallingly degraded circumstances, I mean, really tear-jerking stuff, And the near-death experiences are something like the equivalent for spirituality, yes, in that they so often echo this experience of the overwhelming love of God as they feel it. And sometimes sort of see it. I mean, they see Jesus or whatever, angels or relatives that are overwhelmingly personifying loving help and rescue. Yeah. Goodness, I'm unstable just trying to explain what's moving me at the minute. Hang on. This dawning of a new age, like the notion of the age of Aquarius. I mean, it seems casual and flippant, but it's not. It's in, the way science astonishingly developed into social science. I mean, psychology and even medicine shifted, into a concern for psychiatry. And philosophy has shifted into life skills. It's as if the humanity of the race is starting to shine through. This shift from law to love, precept from precept to hope, a psychology that something about the mind and thought, even our physical sciences are very much now shifting from matter to energy as their preoccupation. All this telecommunication stuff and programming and, software is all about thought in a way. That which is guiding and controlling what we make and do and manage and how we manage it. And we've gone into the psychology of creation instead of simply its tangibility. We're forever dealing with things that we can't actually see. We don't directly handle with our physical senses, but hold a concept of it in our mind, which we are analysing and steering, our moods, our hopes, our reason for living. We're concerned less about food, more about crime. In other words, breaches of procedure and protocol and culture that might be costing us trouble. We're fascinated by what's happening politically, which is something to do with the thought structures that are dominating our decision-making in society, apparently, and affecting everyone's life. And we're in communication mind-wise through, albeit propaganda and the media and so on, but do you see it's this, well, if you go back to Roman times, propaganda was sort of blatant, or Egyptian times earlier, where the pharaoh would rewrite history on the side of his temple or something, on the wall. Ashoka, he would write it on these, they called stelas, or, guidance to the people when he became an ardent Buddhist instead of a conquering emperor. And, we've taken the preoccupation with the mind and thought and organisation and so on to its incredible development in the modern world and preoccupation with us. So much so that even something like the internet itself is consuming a significant chunk of our power output of our societies in the Western world. Just supporting our communication structure. wars are win and lost according to these technologies too. I mean, far more than how big a bomb you can make, or how defensive metal-wise you can make your tanks or ships or something. We found even in something like the Second World War that to crack the enemy's secret Enigma code was everything to victory. Do you see, understanding was the cause of the Western Allies' victory. We knew what the enemy were going to do, and therefore could use our resources so efficiently to be there and where and appropriately at the right time to meet any offensive and to destroy any defense. We have a world now where wars are not won by governments and nations. They're determined by the decisions of some of our high-tech industries. You know, our technology is what's winning wars, not our brute force. And you still need a bit of brute force, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're still bombing and killing people. But we're very selective about it now. Goodness, we're civilized, aren't we? Yes. Now you really lost your way, Marshall. Pause for a minute. Oh, goodness, yes, I do seem to have strayed, don't I? What I meant to say at the start was what's significant in all these near-death experiences and in what really is going on in the church when it moves people. I mean, not the bulk of its Leviathan dead body, but the charismatic bit is the love of God. When people in their near-death experiences or in their spiritual religious life are suddenly confronted with the love of God that overwhelms them, their whole life is transformed. They are not the same from then on. It is still, surprisingly, that Christian thing of they're so changed, we would call it they're born again. They have meaning, they have purpose, they have a peace, they have an assurance. They pass from a fear of death to an absolute devotion to life and to something spiritual beyond their imagination. That's just spirit. It's just emotion, you would say. If you're secular, you dismiss it as just emotion. But it's a happiness and a fullness of life. As of having the promise of life eternal in fullness of life. And it's still consistent with, the picture of white clouds and angels playing and harps and everything's hunky-dory beautiful, and there's sort of someone like Jesus floating around in white robes, and light everywhere, glorious light, It's still something like that, in that your whole being of happiness has been transformed. You are transcendent. From this transcendent experience of suddenly being aware of what you take to be overwhelming love, And it's on the web. It's on YouTube. It's your near-death experiences. You just plug in NDC. And all rolls out, Do you know what we've taken as absolutely childish Christian sort of notion, and we'll see him coming on the clouds of heaven. Everyone will see him. Yeah, you see him on the cloud. Metaphorically? Well, it was always metaphorical. I mean, did we really think, physical body was going to stand on a cloud? No, it had to be something spiritual we're talking about. And what have we got now? We've got near-death experience videos coming from the cloud. Wi-Fi. Every eye can see him anywhere in the world. I mean, if they have ears to hear, eyes to see, if they have a purpose to. If not, of course, they're listening to the news and getting depressed, or some conspiracy theory. I mean, choose you this day whom you will serve. Still seems to hold, doesn't it? But in the context of a world of astonishing technology, we've actually made it come true. Well, God has, in some way, through giving us survival and success in the technology, I suppose. I mean, we're still hanging on like grim death, aren't we? Despite wars and rumours of wars and plagues, and we're about to engineer a famine, I think, I don't know. It's all in the conspiracy world, isn't it? Do you see, from your personal reality point of view, your daily living point of view, don't you want this experience? Is it just something that's of no interest to you, the possibility of being utterly overcome by overwhelming love, that your whole life is transformed? I'm not talking about pie in the sky. Just listen to a few of these accounts. You'll decide in your heart whether this is a load of rubbish or, just make-believe, or if it's something that's transformed their whole life. And they wouldn't have anything else for the world. They wouldn't have anything. They wouldn't have anything else but for this. It's the most important blessing in their whole life. Dozens and dozens of them. You might say, well, that's terribly few compared to the billions of people on Earth. Well, yeah, many are called, few are chosen, but it's worth looking at, isn't it? What's going on in these near-death experiences? Why have they got commonalities like this overwhelming experience of love? And yet some have this experience of hell. Apparently, I avoid those like the plague, of course, whatsoever's good and lovely, I think, on these things. But if you do want to wander into that, I'm not sure to get out again, but you can. I'm just saying there is something going on here that it'd be strange to ignore it, wouldn't it? It's like living on top of a seam of gold, or, well, it'd be uranium these days, wouldn't it? But what's it? Lithium is very valuable, isn't it? and just not bothering to scrape away the surface a bit to see just how much you're worth. I'm speaking in parallels, of course. I'm not talking about something literal. Or I don't think so, anyway. It's still a case, isn't it? I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Life eternal. And it's something to do with love and goodness, joy and hope, peace, meaning to life. Life abundant, life eternal. It's still there, even though we've thrown religion out the window. Oh, I mean, secular world has anyway. Surprisingly, the secular world's surprisingly small. It's a very dominant elite in our society, it seems. But the bulk of the world's population is still fanatically religious from the secular point of view. A very small minority, you know. They seem to be a majority in the media and in the control system and in the elite. You know, I mean, it may be that scum rises to the top. I don't wish to be insulting, but that has been the popular saying, hasn't it? That if you wanted the real value of the people, you didn't look among royalty and politicians. You looked upon the common people and searched through until you came to the saints. Or in modern parlance, the really spiritual people, as opposed to the worldlings that are, well, have been forced by circumstances somehow to be very materially minded. Perhaps just to survive, but perhaps in the hope that such would bring fullness of life, happiness, joy, fun, creativity, power, experience, excitement, travel. Was the hope that was driving them. And when they get there, well, they find it's life, of course, for real. Not the real they were hoping for. But wives that leave them and businesses that go bust and jobs that become redundancy and houses that somehow get stolen. And they realize the futility of the material and long for something better. My soul longs for you. My soul longs for you. Nothing else will do. You know, that's what, well, the popular young person feels much of the time. They just long for someone, a wonderful partner, a sweetheart. I mean, nobly a life partner, a husband, a wife, to be parents and have children. There's a longing for relationship that the world can't meet just by technology. In fact, its technology seems to break up relationships and destroy, like, the family or the society or the culture. And one desperately tries to stitch the technology together in such a way that it is not so destructive. What we really value is relationship. And whatever good relationship means to us, which usually means faithfulness, integrity, love, empathy, sympathy, understanding. Yes, we come down to what we truly value. Brought to our knees in that sense. It's a bad analogy. I don't think I use that one. Rewrite that, can you? No, it's the law of the Medes and Persians. What I've said, can't be changed. Fortunately, it vanishes into the past and everyone forgets it. Yeah. Do you see? You are still, even in this modern world, principally driven by love, attachment, longing for fullness of life, life more abundantly, life eternal. How amazing. Thank you, Heavenly